I've only heard he's the funniest guy, not as funny as me. And I have talked to Pam Winger, and she, her background, what makes her even, like, I'm looking at my calendar to say, I want to take it. What makes her even more amazing is, God, now I can't think of his name, Ted Nettle? That's her mentor, and you could see, because I asked her, I said, when I saw her paintings, I said, where did you look like his paintings? It's like you're getting a 2-for-1 when you take her.
Oh, you're talking about Pam?
Yeah.
Yeah, Pam is Ted's her mentor.
Yeah, and you can see it in her paintings, and
absolutely.
And she's also a very, very nice lady.
She's a lovely lady.
So anyhow, so again, like I babble a little bit, and what I like to do is that if you have any questions, just throw them out. You know, if not, I start talking about my husband, and he's not that exciting. Because this is, I work my issues. Because in fact, there's times I'm walking down the street, and one of my students go, "Hi, Sam," and he's like, "How does that person know about me?" Because I don't have that exciting of a life. So what I did here, because this is the one I'm going to be working on, okay? And you can see my issues because I overdraw things. I love to draw. I like to draw. I'm more confident in my drawing than I am with my painting. And that's why I draw so much. How much you should draw in it is how much you feel you need to do your painting. I have a lot of issues. Okay? So I first did like this because one of the secrets of watercolors and why we all have jobs is because nobody listens to us, and we tell them to let each layer dry or you get mud. So if I worked on this here, because everybody says, oh, we have no patience, right? I would have had mud, and I wouldn't have a painting. So I thought, Dorrie, because that's my name, I'll do this layer at home. Now, when I do things, again, my background was an art director, so I plan, and and the reason why I thought I was a good art director is because I painted on the side. Because when you're an art director, it's not about you; it's about your client. But when you're painting, it's really all about me. I don't even, like we would talk, I don't even do it to sell. Well, okay, beer bottles work really well for me.
These are all for sale, by the way.
Yeah. But I don't do anything for selling, but if not, my husband's if I die, he's gonna be sitting there with these all around him, and they won't leave the house. But I'm a big sketchbook person, because if I'm gonna go in front of a room, if I don't have a plan, then I'll go south. So I'll do a sketch. The first thing I think is that you have to have a great life. So we go to the city a lot. When I go there, I take my phone and I take pictures. Best paintings will come from your own photos, because it's your life. Otherwise you're painting, somebody else's life. And you guys are more than welcome to take photos or whatever you want to do with them. Then, because and then when I try to look, and I think the hardest things about watercolor is, for me, is they use the word shapes, trying to find connections. I struggle with that. Like if you ever look at Andy Everson's stuff, he's like a king of showing how to get shapes. So, and that's instead of looking at this wonderful person and saying I like him, it's instead of looking at it as how things are connected. And I'm not very good at that. I'm good with the perspective. My painting's perspective is because, if you might have noticed, I'm 5'3". Okay, and after a certain age, you don't jump up on people's shoulders to take photographs. You take it from that level. So that's usually what it is. If you want a really good painting, go to the high line. That's the one that got into the cover of Watercolor magazine. And then you can look down without having to jump and do any gymnastics. Weird views do work. But again, I'm not, they're going to come from this view. Cityscapes are very easy to do perspective with, because we make it hard But again, if you notice, these lines all go to the middle. If you just follow that, and you just trace it from your picture, you're going to get it. Things in the front are bigger than things in the back. We make it very complicated, okay? So I got my little photo. I put a little grid in here because if I don't, I start making people too skinny. Okay? So this helps me. Some people have looked at my photographs. One person on Facebook begged me not to put these lines in there, which I personally think the guy has to get a life. Some other people have said that that makes my paintings better. I don't erase things because I'm lazy. I mean, it's not like my mother didn't beat me with a pencil or anything. That's kind of been my method of doing things. So, for this, because I was a little bit more nervous than normal, I did a sketch. Now, I may follow the sketch and I may not follow the colors. But usually, I'm a golden educator. I have some of those things here that you guys could all have. Not the cards, just those little things. But I have more paint colors than I could ever need with, but I very rarely use more than these colors here. Sometimes I'll throw another color in, but you don't need a lot of colors, okay? It's not going to make your painting better. I don't even tell people, I don't even know what colors I have there at a point. So, and the next thing that I tell people, I tell my students, the reality of the situation with all the paint you have, what's going to happen to it is that when you die, when you're 125, your children are going to take it here and give it away. So use it.
December.
What?
The December meeting.
Yeah. Right. So the thing is that it's a psychological thing. We have to get used to not saving our paint and using our paint. So again, like I don't use that many colors. Because I have so many paintings, I sometimes forget and I throw things over on here, the colors that I use. I give myself some notes. And then and I'll do this, and then I'll do this on this one. The first layer is my favorite. And basically what you need to do, and unfortunately I have a clean palette, is that you just take whatever's there with a big brush, mess it together until you get a color that you like. Have a little place to test it out, which I usually have at top. And you want to have a little bit always, you don't waste, because I just cleaned this here because I'm coming here and I didn't want you to think that I'm a slob. But normally this is never clean. You know, and I just throw this color in here like this for the first layer. Sometimes I do things like that. Freaks my students out. It's a lot of fun. And then in the front areas here where I want the detail to be, I may leave that white. If I do this, this is the part that I know, and sometimes in class, sometimes I sit there and I start talking slow because this is the point that I know that if I'm going to have a successful painting or not, it's right here. So if I really like it, I try to talk more and not paint, because then I want to go home and do it. Put my little shadows in here. Then I do a little Ouija like this, and I use my favorite new tool, really expensive, my finger. But you see, a lot of people, they don't mix enough colors, and then what happens is you have those streaks, right? So you just kind of mix enough to make it happen. Throw a little bit of this here. Another favorite tool. my paint, I'm also an educator of silver paint brushes, and they really hate that my favorite tools are credit cards and not the paint brushes. But they have wonderful brushes. I think a lot of people's tendencies now is like, oh, I got to go back into the sky, I got to do something. You do if you want it muddy. Or if you want it a little bit darker, you could throw it in. And then we'll just put this over here and go and make believe that we were here for an hour and come back to this one. So in this one here, see, I spend big expenses for my things to prop my paints up. You know, so in this one here, I've already made this layer a little bit darker because the things at the back also, you don't have to be that interested in it. So they should be soft. If you put a lot of detail here, people are going to look there. I want people to look here. So again, a lot of times when I'm painting, it's how much I could get away with not doing versus what I could do. And that's very hard. I also usually keep a little bit over here, and the reason for that is that this is where I'm always testing my colors. So I'm going to now just, even the back is like a lot of my paintings, if you see here, yep. I start off with a light, right? Then I'll go a little bit darker to a medium darker color, and then I'll get to a really juicy color. You know, so I usually, somewhere in one of these I might have put it down there. Oh, here it is. And like a lot of, and that, you know, everything I do, I learn from somebody else. Like my mentor or stalker, because I think there's a closeness to what that is John Salomon. I took a workshop with him 10 years ago, about 12 years ago actually. No, it had to be before Sam, so it had to be 15 years ago. In the workshop, right, he then went to, it was an abstract thing, and I had no idea what the hell I'm doing. I'm not an abstract artist, okay? He looks at my abstract thing and he goes, I could finish a painting. If you want to have a workshop destroy for you, have John Salomon say, I want to finish your painting. Because all of a sudden I had so much pressure. And like, we got along because our personalities, a lot were the same. And I've taken a few more of his workshops, and he still hasn't, like, you know, he still hasn't gotten rid of me. He still takes my emails once in a while. But I then, got this call, because it was, you know, at that point people still called each other, and they said, we'd like to, could you send us some of your paintings? This is from Watercolor magazine, because somebody recommended you to be in Ones to Watch article. And so I had to think, they wouldn't tell me who it was, but I took 2 workshops, and the other one was a ladies' man, and I don't work very well when people, they're not going to like me that way. So I just, they wouldn't tell me who it was. And then afterwards they said, are you sitting down with John Salomon? So like he at that point changed my life. The article I was in at that point, I think that's when Tom Shallow got his start, and Ian Stewart. They got famous, and I just stayed in New Jersey. So
You are famous.
But so he basically, whenever there's something that good happens to me, he finds out somehow, and it's always been there for me. So anyhow, that's my 1 minute of fame. Okay, so now I keep the photograph here, and again, like I work my way up slowly, and again here even I switch things, okay? Because I don't know what this flag is, and if anybody walks by Bloomingdale's and says to me, Dorrie, you move things around, that person, you don't want to be as your friend anyhow, right? There's something wrong with them. So I'm gonna, now that still staying a little bit looser, these buildings here are a little bit darker. Again, I got this little bit of a mess going here. And again, this is gonna be a little bit looser than what I usually paint because I was told this meeting isn't gonna go on for a week.
Dorrie, what colors are you mixing together for your neutrals?
Usually what I do was ever on my palette. So here I had a little orange here, I had a little blue there, I had a little red there.
Okay. And you mostly use what kind of paint?
I only use core, except I love lavender Daniel Smith.
Yes.
I've even said to Cores, why can't you make that? Because some years ago they put an art, on Facebook they said, does any artist want any free paint? And being who I was, I said, shit, yeah. I told you I was going to curse, right? So then they said, what colors do you want? I said, you don't tell a girl. Give me an amount, give me a budget. So I picked one of every color. And except one, because I don't use black and green, so I said, no, I don't need those. So after that, this building here is a little bit darker, so. After that, they asked me to be an educator for them. And their paints have changed the way I paint, so I was pretty much okay with it. My good friend Lana, she first would say, Lana Primavera, you know, who's God of the, if you look at, who wins every award in the world. So she went to me, I don't really like them at first because she says something about the technical terms, fast or whatever. And then all of a sudden she said to me, you know, she said, a few of the colors, she says, they're working really good for me. So even, because she says they're very bright and intense. And she says, okay, they're good.
So is that the difference between them and, say, a Winsor Newton color, is that they're more intense in pigment?
I think they are, in my opinion.
No.
You know, I like them. I wouldn't, you know, like with brushes, I find like, again, like, because whatever something has, and I have samples if you want, if anything has changed and made my painting better, because I'm not, you know, I'm not technically correct. If you want to know where the light is right, what trees or whatever, don't come to me. You know, everything I do is intuitively. What I found with the brushes and these paints, it did make a big difference in my painting. It made me able to go a little bit bolder than I thought I could. So, you know, and they seem to last a long time. So again, I'm just gonna, as you can see now, like, cause this building is in front of that, so we're just gonna make that a little bit darker. But she did mention something about the fastidity. She doesn't think every one of them has fastidity. I go, I have no idea what she's talking about. Again, she's much smarter than I am. You know, I always step back. And like again here, I'm going to leave these the way it is. In the back, I'm going to take out because again, I throw everything in here, still doing light. Throw these buildings in here in the back, light. So like the story about my beer bottles was, again, I have no children, so when you have no children, we think babies are ugly. You know, they want you to hold them, and my friend, she had 2 twin boys, and she unfortunately was raising them herself. She lost her husband, and so she was trying to sing 100 bottles of beer on the wall because she was exhausted because doing this. So me, being the caring, wonderful friend, because she knew she couldn't let me hold them because, again, I thought I would break them, and she has this problem. I think most parents have this problem when you drop a baby. So I was sitting there saying, well, this would be a great painting, making 100 bottles of beer, but I don't have that patience. So what happens if I just made a show, which was 100 bottles of beer, they take one down, pass it around, and then I make another one. I thought, that I could do that. But I said, nah, I would get bored with that too. So then I had a sketchbook, and I said, let me just paint one in the sketchbook and paint them in the sketchbook and then scan them. Because, art director, I could get away with that. So I did that, I put it up on Facebook, and somebody wanted a print. And so then again, advertising, marketing, I thought, let me do another one, and let me ask people what they want. And so let me see if I can get to 100. So all of a sudden, and every time I did it, because it wasn't my photograph, because the best ones to do them from are from Photoshop, things that are perfect, I would send it to the company, so they say, this is what I'm doing, please don't sue this old lady. And most of them were like, hey, this is pretty cool, this lady's doing this. And my husband was like, oh great, young kids are going to go buy this, we're going to make millions, life's going to be really good. But of course, young kids couldn't afford them, so I started putting them at Etsy, and Anheuser-Busch contacted me, Corona Beer contacted me to do them. I've done them, people that had bars would have me, make originals. So it's somehow became a very nice income. I've done over 150 now.
So you're saying not only 100 bottles of beer, now you have to sing 150 bottles.
Yeah. And like they still, they still sell. Not enough that I'm going to be retiring soon, which was my husband's real upset about that. But he also says I could retire when I'm his age, but he says you're never going to be my age. So basically my whole career in art has been because of jokes. So also with these people, the back people I put like over the gray. Here I want this to stick out, so I left this white. Over here I got to get a little bit darker still because I want this building in front. No questions, I'm going to be talking about my husband soon.
Tell us about your brushes. What are you using?
My brushes that I use, I like the black velvet and I like the round ones.
Me too.
And they have nice points. It took me a long time to get used to them. I don't know, because I always use, I was telling June, I used cheap brushes many years, and then only like maybe 20 years ago, no, 30 years ago, Denise Collins, if anybody knows her, gave me this brush. And that was my first good brush, and I still have that. So first when and Silver found me because I was an educator for chorus. So they asked the people in chorus, do you know anybody? And they put a thing on Facebook saying in our core group, does anybody want to be a silver educator? And I'm like, yeah. That's the first time, and they really taught me about brushes, and I knew nothing about them.
So Dorrie, what do you use for flats?
I use this one, and when I want to get hard edges,
Also silver?
silver. I use silver Monza for like if you want a little bit stiffer edge. I use that one,
Yeah.
and the black velvets go the whole way up.
Mm-hmm.
They have a new line that just came out for watercolorists. I haven't tried them yet. They're supposed to be, what are those, the fancy ones? But they're squirrels, is that it? It's hard.
No.
Kalinsky.
Kalinsky?
Yeah, it's hard to find. Yeah, it's hard to find that type of.
It's mink, isn't it?
Yeah, I think.
So they found a way of doing it imitations.
Yeah. Who was our member that used to make them?
These are
Henry Kellish.
Yes.
Oh, this is fun.
Silver, black
Kalish.
velvet.
Kalish.
not cheap.
Yeah, Kalish brushes, but those were made in Ireland.
Yeah.
He had a company.
We used to get brushes from Russia, but I don't know if we're doing that anymore.
No, I'm sure we're not. And you can't get certain rosemary brushes in the United States either.
So Dorrie, do they send you around? Like I'm near by Jerry's in West Orange, and sometimes they'll have somebody come in to push the products.
No, they don't
Oh.
send me around. They just teach me how to use it and
Oh,
ask. And again, it's the same thing with these that I say with cores. Is that if I didn't like it, I wouldn't recommend them.
okay.
So what have you learned about using their brushes from them?
What I learned from using the brushes is first of all how to clean them. Like you use hot water, and if you put hot water, boiling water like this, they come back. And what I found with these brushes is the more you spend, like I teach beginners, I can't tell them to spend
Right.
a lot of money for a brush. They're not addicted yet. You know, but this, I could do a whole painting, and I have a pretty steady hand.
Yes.
So I could do a whole painting with this because of the thinness. And like what I tell most people when they buy a brush, use a brush, is that you should use a brush that scares you. Because we all love this one. And we would do our whole painting with this one. But, you know, the bigger brushes, I keep trying always to go for a bigger brush. You know, I'm going to try to remember to put again, I don't want I'm not, I have to try to remember to put the blue in the right place. My first advertising job, I didn't do that. Again, if somebody's going to count how many stars and stripes it is, they're a communist.
They're not your friend.
They're not my friend.
No.
I don't consider them a Democrat or a Republican. I consider them an annoying person to begin with. And again, like I'm not going. There's a point that, and I'm waiting to make. I'm going to put a little bit of red in here. I'm kind of waiting and thinking all the time. My shadow colors are usually a blue or purple. I don't use black. I don't use green. I mix all my greens. I do keep green on my palette. I don't know why. I guess it's to remind me not to use it.
Looks cool.
Yeah. And green is good for a black. You know, it's really good but if I'm mixing a tree, again, my trees, I don't know what kind of tree they are. Some people try to figure it out.
Dorrie, talk to us about edges.
I don't know when to leave them or not.
Yes.
Oh, that's a good question. If you're on a good day, if you have to draw an edge, that means you're doing something wrong. Because positive, negative, and all those things you hated to hear, if I could get this edge over here by painting a background, then I'm okay. So if most people's inclination, and that's a big word for me, is to try to they see the edge, they take that black rapidograph out and they put it on their paper, and then all of a sudden you have those lines, and they go like, now I got it. But if you could do it the other way, or you could do it with your paintbrush, I have a very steady hand, like right now. But you don't want it to look right. Anything you do, you want to look wrong. Because once things look perfect, right, then it looks wrong, if that makes sense. But that's how I lived my whole life. Again, messy palette, I'm just going to throw this color here. Again, and again, like the more you connect, I don't know what flag that was. Now it's even worse because
Just a Bloomingdale flag.
my mother, whoops. And when things like that happen, you don't get upset. It's just a happy accident that you'll make work somehow. Here I'm gonna use this. So beautiful that is, that's connecting, going in there. Anything you can make the watercolor do the work for you is always gonna be more beautiful. Before you do type, I gotta make sure this is dry, and I really don't know what I'm gonna do here, so I'll probably leave it for a long time. Here are these people, the skin color, real important. What a lot of people do, because you all know you use red and yellow, right? So you think you have to use the exact same amount of red and yellow to make a person, and then we have yellow people. And one of the things that I want to stop the world of yellow people. So really, when you're mixing a color for skin, you put red and just a touch of yellow, because yellow's a really tough color to work with, and blue. And what people don't do, when I mean people, I mean my students, is that they decide, they look in here, they say, okay, yeah, I did, Dorrie told me red, yellow, and blue, that's perfect. And then they go right on to here, and then they get a yellow person. What you should always do is test it before you put it down. And again, I'll throw some other colors in here.
What do you like to do about hair color?
Hair color, it depends. I usually use a lot of, I never use straight brown. I never use straight brown. I use a lot of burnt sienna, but I never use it in my trees. If you notice, they're all darker. First I'll put the skin color in here, and then after that, usually like, I'll use burnt sienna, but I'll put purple or blue in it or something like that. Again, these people are in the back too, so I don't want them to be that important. Sometimes I'll put a little brown in my skin color. And I found that Googling skin color is how, I learned how to do it. Most of the things that I learned, it's like most of you, even though, yeah, I went to college, took all those classes you're supposed to take in color theory, but I never listened to them because I was a cocky, insecure kid, and I knew that the one thing I had given to me by God was I had a great color sense. So I felt the teachers were going to destroy that. So whenever we went to color theory, my head went somewhere else. So I don't even know how complements things work. I do it all, that part I do intuitively. I was really a joy to have in class, as you can tell. Like, again, back here, I'm going to make everything, not going to do the details. Just throw things in here, my people. Like that. I'm not going to, I love doing little people, just a little red. And here again, I use these people because I wanted this area here again, old-fashioned design school advertising, things connected here and like that makes a T shape. So if I have things connected here and there, I have a good design. You don't want to, here I'm a little bit close to not having a good design because you never want to split a page in half. And I almost did that, so I have to really work about connecting these things. So make some.
What size do you normally wear?
Class, this to that when I'm teaching.
Yeah.
Home, I've been working on doing, that's when I'm working on the studio now, but I'm working full sheets now. So I just started doing that more in the last few years. And basically because if you want to have a chance to get into a show, that's the best way to do it. It's nowadays everybody's painting big.
What type of paper do you use, or you like to use?
Lately, I've been using Fabiana or Arches. If I'm teaching, I'm using 140. If I'm working at home, I'm using 300. I'm still on the search for the perfect paper that will do the painting for me. And, so sometimes I use hot press, soft, I'm still always looking.
When you started out, you were using an unusual paper. What was that paper you were using?
I was using Strathmore illustration board.
Yeah.
And only reason why I stopped that more is you all gonna like me less for this, but I teach so much, so sometimes I have to trace. And you can't trace with that, so I started using this. When I would go to shows also, I would sit there and go, I use illustration board, and all the watercolor artists like this would be,
Oh, no.
what's wrong with you? So it gives a different effect. I also spend I'm so slow that I need a piece of paper that I could really beat down.
Is the illustration board very, very smooth?
No, not this one.
Oh, okay.
You can get a hot press or you can get it with dual press.
It's like watercolor paper glued to cardboard.
Yeah.
The only thing is, it's hard to use for really wet to wet, because
Okay.
it can bubble up. You gotta be careful with that.
Not this one.
Now, what are you using?
Well, now, what I'm using now, I'm using Fabiana 300 press a lot.
Illustration board?
No, now I'm not using it so much.
Oh,
But when I was using that, and I use too much water. Again, like, just to show you guys another thing, when I do tires, because again, I don't want to show my mistakes, and if you want to show your mistakes, I'm very curious also. Understanding where the tires are in the car and they're three-dimensional helps. But again, if you do each one of those tires, it's going to look like a mistake, so I paint the shadow. Everything I do is to hide my issues.
What do you find the hardest part of these urban pictures?
Starting. Getting over myself and not wanting to be, every time I start, I want to be a photorealist. Like I start off saying, sketching, I'm in heaven. Then I say, I'm going to be like John Salomon. Then I cry because nobody's like John Salomon. Then afterwards, when you say critique, I have my people that I show my paintings to that will tell me the truth. It's really important to have people say that to you. Show it to them, they tell me the truth, which I don't like usually. Then all of a sudden I say, well, being Dorrie Rifkin's not that bad, because what happens is then I throw, that's where the splatters came, and then I start doing me. So, and it's a cycle, it hasn't changed. Does anybody was a therapist before this? Because I think that I think you could write a book with all my neurotic issues.
That's why we paint.
That's what my husband says. He goes, okay, and then one of my favorite tools, again, the credit card.
I have a John Salomon story.
Please.
I moved here from Duluth, Minnesota.
Oh, so you really know John Salomon?
Yes,
Don't tell him
and-
that don't tell him my story about him being me stalking him, because he might.
Well, I took a class or two from him, and then I kept running into him at the grocery store and the airport. And I'm sure he thought I was stalking. His wife have you met his wife?
Kathleen's the sweetest lady in
Oh,
the
she
world.
is the sweetest, and she takes most of his photographs.
Yeah,
But when he was a high school art teacher.
I'm a stalker. I know everything. Yeah.
And when he retired from that, I think we had our watercolors. He was a founding member of the Watercolor Society I was in Duluth. And one of our meetings, we met up at the University of Minnesota Art Department, and we invited some of the students to come in because one of our members was on the faculty. So she invited the students to come, and one of the students, was talking to him and asking questions. Well, he said, I retired from teaching high school, and now I'm doing demonstrations and traveling around. And the kid asked him, how come you didn't go into teaching college students watercolor? He said, I can make more money traveling around doing workshops, and he certainly has. I
Yeah.
mean, he's now judging and everything, so.
Well, it's also because what I found, because we all have, I may not be talking to all of you at this, but I've taken a few workshops, and there's not as many people that give his heart and soul. Like, I took one when he was in New Jersey Watercolors, in New Jersey, and what I did, because I'm that type of nasty person, I didn't tell first I walk in and him and Kathy goes, is this group good? I said, well, if there was a bomb here, you just wiped out the whole New Jersey Watercolor Society. I said, so you have the level that was there. So what I knew is that John's a nice guy. But I didn't tell anybody there, so they were intimidated by him. And he would sit and have lunch out there because he wants to talk to people. So nobody would go there because he's John Salomon but me. So for the first few days, it was just me. And then they all caught on to my little trick. Again, but yeah, I mean, he's just, I mean, that's the thing, because this is a lot of, we've all taken workshops where some of them really think they're more than just a watercolor teacher.
Oh, yeah.
And he's just such a nice guy. But I don't know if he knows, don't tell him that I use him in every,
Well,
he's gonna want to profit. He's
I
gonna-
don't live in Duluth
Yeah.
anymore, so I probably won't see him.
It's cold.
Maybe it's a can.
And so I'm now gonna, and then now that this is dry, I'm gonna go in here a little bit and put a little type in here. And again, to make my black, I take blue, I take brown, and now I got a black. I may throw a little pink in there. But again, when things start getting where I want information to be is where I'm gonna, because you gotta have some rich parts in the painting.
Do you think about a cool dark or a warm dark?
God, I wish I did. Cool, warm, if I was to use a warm black, yeah, sometimes I'll throw a little bit more yellow in here to get it warm. But, so, not as much as I should. If I'm happy, my brain is on, right now my brain's thinking what you're thinking, and now I'm thinking what you're thinking and I'm saying. The joy, I think, is when you're not thinking anymore, and you don't know there's people in the room watching you paint, that's when the joy is.
When you're at home, do you paint to music? Like,
I-
what's the background?
My husband gets really mad at me for this, but the worst soap opera type TV show that I'm, I like looking over, seeing good looking guys, and
Mm-hmm.
so he hears like he's in the room next to me watching some book TV, which I don't understand, read a book, or CNN or something intellectual, or doing something smart, because he's smart, he's very smart, and I'm not. So I'm there, and he just walks in the room, he goes, what is happening to you? Because there's some kid screaming or something. So the worse TV show is, the better. I just need noise in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And right now I'm liking that every time I touch the paintbrush, it's a different color, but it's the right value.
Yes.
And again, the things that I'm confident in, not very confident in my painting skills, very confident in my drawing skills, and very confident in my type skills. Also, there's been many paintings that I've spelt words wrong. There was one, and again, I'm a Hebrew school dropout. So my Hebrew, in high school, everywhere, because I thought in high school I took it because I thought I could get an A, because I figured only Jews were taking it. So in my public high school they had it, so I took it, but only that I did not know that all the Jews had the same concept, and so all the ones that were from Israel took it. So then and then I finally, they told my mother, who had to be called in a lot of times for me acting out in the class, that we promise if we go to Israel, we'll get a translator, that we will never abuse the language, just give her a C and let her go on. So I did one painting at one of my first shows at the JCC in Tenafly, and the interesting about that, my cousin, who's a very talented abstract artist, said to me, "You're never going to get in." And I said, "I have no memory, so let me just apply and see what happens." And then she said she had to go back and say, "Everybody loved your work," got in. And so I did the painting, I figured, marketing, I'll do one with Hebrew. My friend, the same one, who's destroyed my career many times, she was at that point 8.5 months pregnant. And again, when you're pregnant, I don't get how you're not the same human being. So I asked her, could you translate, because she was, her father's a rabbi, so she's very good in Hebrew. Could you translate this line in this painting for me? Because I'm doing a show at the Washington JCC with people that didn't flunk Hebrew in high school. Sure, Dorrie, she did it.
No.
One guy comes, and a red dot as soon as the show started. So then another man who might have had a yarmulke on came up to me and said, you spelled a word wrong. And I said to him, I asked her, she said, Nud, Yud, what's the big difference? And I said, but it has a red dot, it's not my problem anymore.
Because it was sold.
Yeah, it's now,
Okay.
yeah. I wasn't gonna, I don't know I don't think I offended him. And then at that show, again, I've never been known to speak in front of a room at all, because I, as you can see, I go off in tangents. So this is the first time everybody I knew was like crying because they all came, and I had to do a little speak, and everybody was asking me questions, and I'm like, I'm a genius there, right? Then there's Danny Aiuelo there, he passed away recently. He's in the back raising his hand, and I'm like, I can't call on him, because if I call on him, I'm going to stutter. So he wouldn't stop raising his hand. So now me and Danny are like best friends talking to each other. At the end, he comes up to me and he says, I want to tell you how talented you are. And I looked at him and I go, I've got to tell you, I can't believe I spoke without stuttering to you. And then he kissed me on the head.
Aww.
Most people said, but he didn't buy any of your paintings.
Show me the money.
Yeah. So we go right to and you can see now the hair part, this brown here would be boring, right? So again, messy palette. You see how messy my palette's getting now? Throw a little blue in there. This is why I get oohs and ahs. I didn't get oohs and ahs.
You want us to ooh and ah? We
I
can
don't-
do that.
My husband never oohs and ahs, so I.
Ah.
I'll keep his shirt.
How do you like to handle sidewalk?
I leave them. And sometimes I will put a little perspective in there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna leave that light there and put just the shadows in there. Any excuse I could get, because if I put too much detail in here, you won't look
Right.
at the people.
That's
Got an answer for everything, don't I?
You, it's a good answer.
And again, this blue could go right over here because it's a shadow. New York, he's got to either be a Yankee or Met fan. It's also because in New York you could get away with black clothes, right? Because we all wear black clothes in the city. But you're also allowed to change the color of the clothes. Some people ask me if I do plein air with cityscapes, and I go, no. Because,
With those people.
yeah, you know, people in New York, they're not gonna, could you please stand still for about a week?
Watch out for my pace. Don't knock me over.
And you're really, if you're really not allowed to.
Yeah.
Probably need a permit.
Yeah, you do.
Have to pay up for a license.
You could do it in a park, right? And then do that. And it's fascinating, 'cause I did do a thing in Bryant Park. And it's fascinating because there was one people, they look like this, what's wrong with that woman? And then they leave you alone. But I was doing it for every day, one I did for a week. And there was one guy, because I did one complex painting, and the guy just kept purposely walking by to see if I was working every day. Unless you paint a homeless person in the city,
They keep moving.
yeah. I mean, I found out, and there's a few people in the city that, in Bryant Park, they play these chess games, and you don't want to sit in their chairs because they were really pissed at me.
Yeah.
They're gambling there or something. That wasn't a good day there. They're like looking for connections. I could get some, this here I want this to connect to him. This is like little indents or windows. I don't know what it is. Now that that's dry. Yeah, I like to throw this little, my favorite color is the Daniel Smith because the lavender, because it grays things down in the back. And again, I want things not in focus there. Here, I'm going to go right now. And again, what I do wrong, if you notice here, I'm a righty, and you should paint from here to there when you're a
Yeah,
righty.
it should be on the other side.
Yeah, I like to suffer, you know. A little red in the cheeks back here. Now, I'm not going to do this, I don't know what she has there. So here I'm going to go right, I probably wouldn't go so dark if I was home with my best friends, so. And again, I want these people to stick out. If you're scared, then you're in the right place. So I'm right now pretty terrifying. But you see how much paint I'm using to get this?
Yeah.
Again, like, and she has a hood on. Again, if you see, go to a show and see the paintings that win the awards. It's not the ones that have only that color in it. it's the ones, one of the things you gotta get used to is using the paint. I just started the last few years doing that more. And I just started getting bigger warts. So it's, you know, she does it, right? You see her paintings, you're next to hers, you don't want to be next to hers.
Right.
Do people mind when you're outside taking photographs?
Do they mind?
Yeah, does anyone ever say, what are you doing? I don't want my picture taken, anytime?
It's an interesting thing. New York, they don't care unless they're homeless.
Okay.
I'm very far away when I do it, so they don't know I'm doing it. And I'll blow things up in Photoshop so I get away with more. If I'm taking, my husband sometimes sees a kid and says, do you want to take that kid? And I won't, unless I'm far away, because then you're a pedophile. And like I used to do websites for kids, so I'm very, very protective. I'm not wanting to get, you know, harm a kid. If they see me, they'll then ask permission, but I've never, you know, we just came back from the Ozons, and again, we went with Rhodes Scholar, which is a very intellectual type group. So I was, and it was, you know, some things just don't interest me, like volcanoes, and when you're in the Ozons, not, you know, so I would be taking these photographs, and I ended up, we would be posting them for the group, so I ended up being the group photographer.
Surprise, surprise.
Because, you know, I thought I would have time to sketch, but I guess as you get older, you all don't have very patience. Everything we did was about 1 hour, 2 hours, so they were moving us around a lot. So I just took a lot of photos. And like I said, like most people don't know I'm doing it. And again, when I'm doing the painting, I might take it smaller because I have a good camera. I have a good iPhone. That's all I use, and I blow it up and get it the way I want it. It's fun sometimes to ask the people because they get involved and, you know, but most people don't care. Because they're, especially in New York, they usually would be bumping into you. And more so what I used to do, to get a good photo for a painting, which if you're married to somebody like me, it's not like a fun thing to do. I'll take 100 photos sometimes just to get one good one. So more so when my husband was working, I would just stand on like 42nd Street and just keep shooting. I could leave the painting now, it could be done, right? Because I got a light, medium, dark. You know, again, like next time you look at a show, see how many people have that in a painting, and you can see the difference where they are navigating you what to look at versus, you know, the other way. It's very hard not to get attached and wanting to do everything.
So when you're judging a show, Dorrie, what are you looking for?
Payoffs. No. What am I looking for?
Right to you.
What am I looking for?
Yes.
More so now than before, uniqueness. Paintings that would never usually get award shows unless you do it really good. Barns. You know, if you do something that looks like you did something in a class. You know, if you do something that's unique, that nobody else has done, that usually, if it's something that just, when I walk in the room, you just go, oh my God, because you never, like, something large, and it steals the wall. If you're lucky, then that's the first thing. And I go around a room and I first put a piece of tape of all the paintings and just get me that way. Something I've never seen before. Then after that, master of the technique. You know, you've got, you know, that part. You know, then after that, you know, I look at it again, a good design, which then you have to have all three. You know, and I think and when I leave, sometimes I feel like I've done the wrong choice, but never for the first one. I've never not doubted the first, that, or the second one. After that, it's, and I think this could be with any judge, if they're honest with themselves. After that, they leave, they go, I don't know about those. Because, you know, like, you know, there was even one show, like, somebody I knew entered, and she tried to talk to me beforehand. And the people, when I judged the show, they said to me, you had difficulty. I said, I had difficulty because I had to get off what she did, and because it was a good painting. And I had to get off, you know, that person doing that and then just judge my rules. And when I go on my rules, it's very scientific because, you know, wow, that means good design, you know, challenging something, you know. You know, like, and I see, like, you know, and like I said, there are shows that I enter and I don't get an award. And then I enter in the same painting in another show, and I win first prize. I like, you know, and I think a lot that has to do with, there's some judges that may like less like photorealism. So every judge has a little thing, or it could be just that day. But I think I always try to, of course, if I don't get it, I always blame the judge. But I always try to look at my own painting and say, what was missing in it? How could I grow? Which is very, very hard. But, you know, because that's the thing, is that when I stop growing, I stop painting. It's as simple as that. So this I'm waiting to dry. This, you notice I just put a layer on there because that's the shirt in the back. My colors are now getting a little bit thicker. And also because psychologically, I'm getting a little bit more comfortable with you guys. Throw a little shadow. Nah, but what should I do next?
Do you ever use masking?
It's going to come weird coming from me because you can see that I'm slow as molasses. I have no patience for masking, but when I do a demo, I never use it because for some reason, and I don't know why it is, it always rips my paper, only at demos. I don't know why.
Probably because the paper's not dry enough.
Oh, yeah. So I just don't do it here. Again, like, I'll throw, if I need to, I'll do whatever it takes to have a good painting. So if it means that I have to throw white in it, I'll throw white in it, but only at the end. You know, I never mix it with the color.
If you're talking about white watercolor or white gouache?
white gouache. Like, if I have to, I try to leave the whites, I try to do what God has intended you to do with the watercolor.
Mm-hmm,
But if it doesn't work, you know, I'll do whatever it takes to have a good painting.
of course.
You know, there was a point that I would throw it away, but that's when I was young and stupid. You know. Again, you know, you see how this is looking like it's in the back? You know, of course what I'm going to do here is, because this is what I like to do, is that every one of these windows will be different. You know, and again,
Do you paint every window in?
sometimes, yeah. Because it's not for the, and this, when I do the windows, this is not to make a better painting, because it doesn't. It's because, unfortunately, I like doing it. And again, like, I won't do it as much as I used to, like I'll throw things like that and I'll change it. I used to more, I used to count them and all that. It doesn't make your painting better. If anything, it may make your painting worse. So I try to make it, you know, attach them. When you do feet in the back, you don't want to put necks in the people in the back. You don't want to put every finger or anything like that, because it makes it look wrong again. Then here, I'm just going to draw the window here. Give this guy a tie. Attach him here. A lot of things I do is do what I say, not what I do, because I'll try to attach this here. Take this, and I've been using this Payne's Gray, again, purple scent or something. It's a new color, Payne's Gray Violet. But again, I'll throw 900 colors in there.
Like horse?
Yeah, it's a new color that just came out. And I really like it.
It's transparent?
Somewhat, yeah.
Wow.
You know, whenever you leave white, you got to remember that's where people are looking. So you don't want to. You want to make. You know, you want to make everything. You want to think of every step you're doing. Here's my. I have one of these at home that are from.
So we've got about 20 more minutes or so, Dorrie.
Okay. So you're saying don't do anything big.
I'm saying knock it out.
Again, I want this in the front, so I'm going to put this in bigger. And again, I'll finish this at home because, as you can see, unless we're staying here for like about 20 years.
I don't think so.
We couldn't afford the rent.
That's true. The rent would kill us.
Yeah, we can't afford it.
Okay, but you see how this is now going in front?
How long does it take you to finish a painting this size?
I do about 20 at once because I'm teaching, so I'll do 5, so I don't count. If I had to count, I'd be crying. I've gotten faster on these, so I think if I sat still, I did one, it'd be about 1 day. Like about a day and a half with sketching.
And where do you teach?
I teach online. And I have my card here. I teach in Ridgewood, and 2 classes that I teach at 10-5 Senior Center.
Dorrie, do you ever go back to paintings that you haven't finished, you weren't happy with, and then try to resurrect them at another time, or do you just turn them over and paint on the other side?
Good question.
Aha.
And then, yes, and then at times, I will, it depends on the subject matter. At times, I will make it, if I'm teaching a class that I like it, then I'll make it at home bigger. So I think that people don't do that enough. Because every painting you do is going to, you learn something, and in fact, like right now, I'm doing one that's 20 by 30, and I was told by my mentor, if you want to do a good painting, because it's a great subject, do 2 at once at 20 by 30. So,
The same painting?
yeah, because and each one will be completely different. And, because that way you take out the attachment.
So
If you could
you don't actually paint, you don't go back to a painting you may have started 6 months ago?
Yeah, I'm doing one for a year now.
Oh, okay, and you, okay.
And you can charge by the hour then.
If I had to charge for my paintings, nobody would buy them.
So Dorrie, out of these 2 that you just held up, which was first, which was second, and why did you go back into it? What was the difference?
This is first, this is second. I liked the concept of it,
I do too.
and I thought, wow, I gotta teach this one. So then I did it again. And every time I do it, I learn more. And when I stop learning, I stop teaching. It's as simple as that. Okay, test is over here. Skin color. That's the fun of it. I did advertising. I know what it's like to suffer for it, and my art. This, if it's not fun, I'm stopping, and not doing it anymore. If I'm not growing, it's the same thing with my pickleball. If I don't grow, then I'm going to pick on something else to do. And I think, because I tell my students what they do a lot, I could talk about them because none of them are here. I send them a photo, because God forbid they take their own photo, and they then do it before class. And they say, could you critique this? I'm like, no, I didn't do a lesson plan yet. And I said, if you want to do something, do the painting after the class and do it over and see what you learned. Everybody says, like, I'm not taking a class with her, she's mean.
Does anyone listen to you?
No,
Just joking.
no. Nobody listens to me. My husband doesn't listen to me. Why do you think I'm here?
We're listening.
I know, that's why I'm here. Go home, my husband will be there like,
What's for supper?
leftovers from Yom Kippur. So you can see here, like, again, I use this to, but you can see how
Is that
that,
to sharpen the lines, is that what you're using there?
oh, somebody found, I use it to sharpen the lines, and also I paint with it. So it just gives it a nice texture. And what it does also, it forces me to use a lot of paint.
What is that?
Credit card,
Cut into a triangle.
yeah.
I got you. Didn't look like my credit
Yeah, and you notice again, I haven't used, look how messy this is now. I wish somebody took a photograph when it was neat. And again, you see, like, even now, even though I'm not gonna finish this, but you see how now my paint, because if we're doing the end part, I got, I gotta use thicker paint. My goal is to get to the point that I used the thicker paint on earlier. Now, that's, when you look at Tom Shell's paint, is that he must go through a whole tube of paint, and that's why he's not scared. When you're not, and that's, I know it's, I teach from that because that's where I'm scared of. So I teach from where my issues are, and I have a lot.
What's that blue? You have a blue you throw into face.
Cobalt blue, Syrian, I can't pronounce it, Syrian blue.
Cerulean?
Yeah, like I said,
Cerulean.
yeah, I don't,
Is it cobalt turquoise?
no?
Okay,
My turquoise, yeah,
okay.
that's my magic color that makes people go ooh and ah when I do put it
Yeah.
in. I usually don't put it into the end and everybody goes ooh and ah.
Yeah, that's what I.
So again, like if I didn't finish this painting, and I left it like this, again, you could just see how it's, even though I didn't do much, but talked a lot. And again, it's not always I have a captive audience, so gotta use it while I can.
Dorrie, do you do workshops in Bergen County?
When some people ask me to, I do. I was doing, it all comes that, I used to pursue it more than I do now. Now if somebody asks me, I'm usually a yes. Jersey Shore usually asks me once a year, like I was doing them a lot at Red Bank, and I got, after COVID, not as many people were asking me. And I get tired. So like I said, I was trying to stop the ones that I was doing online, and then they all guilted me. Because they're a lovely bunch that we got together during COVID, and they're all over the country. And they say they like each other. They start talking all the time to each other. So if I stop, they're like, how are we gonna be friends?
Yeah.
Again, it's cutting into my pickleball time. But again, for me, it's always been fascinating because it's more about me being able to speak than it's about me being and communicate than it is about me painting.
Dorrie, I just looked up your official website. I don't see anything on it concerning classes or instructions.
There is.
Unless I missed it.
If you look on it, yeah, there's a link.
I don't see it on everything else.
Yeah, there's a link. There's one part that says workshops.
All right, I'll just,
Yeah,
True.
I'll be ready.
I might have to fire the web designer, which would be me, so.
I see products, images, subject selections about, that's it.
It's, I don't know if maybe on the small one, I gotta do something about that better. I gotta look at that on the phone. If you look on it, on an iPad or, computer, I promise you it's there. I wanna go back there and look at your phone, but I don't have the time right now, cause I gotta finish the painting.
I usually stop in
I'll stop whatever you want me to.
the 20. Okay. 10 more minutes.
Oh, okay, I'm gonna go into happy accent. Gonna go into her pants. No, I'm not gonna go into her pants. Edit that out of the tape. Round in here. Whoops. Have you saw how much?
Dorrie, I
Yes?
recently read about watercolor paper sometimes going off, that the sizing goes
Yes.
bad. Have you had experience with that? I never knew that.
Yes. I had, use it, don't buy a lot and use it quickly. Because if you, and I once went to a workshop and it happened during the workshop and it wasn't fun for me or the person leading the workshop while I was crying.
What happens to the sizing?
In the sizing, the paint ends, you could fix it somehow, they say, if you put it in the bath. It doesn't soak in right.
And I found, I didn't know this until after I had experienced it with a pad of Archie's paper that somebody had given me, and I guess it was
Yeah.
quite old.
Yeah,
I didn't know that, but
Right,
I was so excited to get this big pad free.
of course.
And I found that it bubbled a lot, you know, raised up a lot, and I had the damnedest time trying to get it to flatten out. And I didn't know that
When-
such a thing could happen.
whenever
Of course,
you're
you had a
doing-
gorgeous drawing and, yeah.
I mean, I finished the painting and then I couldn't get it to be
Did you
flat.
stretch it or was it on a block?
It was on a block. It was on a block, but it still bubbled. And then, and years went by. Then when I read this article, and I wish I could tell you where I read it, it must have been in a
I've
watercolor
never heard of
magazine.
that.
I had more trouble getting it off the block. You
Oh,
know,
that's
touched
tough.
up.
That
It's
I
too
believe.
old.
Yeah.
That I believe.
Yeah,
It's
it's
perfect
there.
for the painting.
whenever somebody gives you paper like that, always, before you start, test the paper. I've learned that the hard
How do
way.
you test it, Dorrie? What do you do?
You just throw some colors in here, like on
Oh.
the top,
Okay,
and you'll see if it's good. It could it could happen with art paper you buy too, because sometimes if you win an award, that could be dangerous, because sometimes if you win an award of paper, they give you,
Old stuff?
yeah. You know, so I always,
that I've had.
even if you buy it at times, if you're doing something that's very crazy, always test it out first.
Googling.
I never knew.
I buy it very limited at times. I don't buy a lot for that reason. Okay, you can see now, like, even here, I'm just smearing things to get the color. Again, I would never, by this point, I would have had 3 trips to, Diet Coke thing and
No, where's your plastic?
And the surprise color now. I don't splatter as much as I used to, because sometimes when you splatter, it looks like you're killing somebody if it's red paint. So I stopped splattering on a lot of paintings. People don't like murder scenes, I don't know why. just do the cool thing, and I'll, then taking this. Somebody wanted me to teach how to do that, this. And I go, get when something's put. And this is what my seniors usually say to me. And when I started teaching, I wasn't a senior, mind you. They were like, and they would say, you have a very steady hand. And then they go, for now.
Now, oh, that's terrible.
And with this drive, I probably still have, oops, he looks like he pooped in his pants. I can't have that. You see that, it's just an opportunity. And when the dry, you know, what didn't have as much is that, if you notice here, leaving a little bit of, every layer I do leave a little bit of whatever was underneath it. Usually when I'm home, it's the last 5 minutes and make or break a painting. It's when you don't care. Notice I have red up there, I gotta put some red down here, and just somewhere. Usually I do. Tell me when you want me to stop, because I'll just continue.
2 minutes.
Oh, gosh. You gotta have a surprise collar and a red dot.
That's right.
Big brush, big brush. I think a lot of times when I do a demo, I get a little bit more cautious.
Mhm.
Not
Dorrie,
bad.
this looks wonderful. Thank you so much.